Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Yo, hey team. Welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today for some Legacy Maverick. I haven't played Maverick other than in paper last weekend at my local LGS. Shout out to MTG Mate for Eternal Wednesdays. We played Naya. I wanted access to Pyroblast and Minsk and Boo for my local metagame. And it went pretty good. It went 3-1. Played against a few blue decks. Minsk was quite strong in those, especially in the grindy matchups. Went down to Infect. Infect was quite challenging. Especially with Legolas's quick reflexes in Infect is very good. They didn't have it this time, but previous time I played Sam, it was very strong and made interaction very awkward. So, hey, MTG Maverick for life. I love that username. We're back with Abzan Maverick, as you can see. A pretty small splash. It's really just the Bowmasters, Decay, Grist main deck, and then Thoughtseize in the sideboard. You could say it's a little bit more than usual, being there's a Decay in here, but I did just want a nice clean way to answer things like Cutter, Tamiyo, Barragoyf, Tez. Obviously, first game back in the new metagame, so my numbers are going to most likely be incorrect, but I really want to try Badgermole Cub, a new card from the Avatar set, which is 2 mana for a 2/2. When this creature enters Earthbend 1, which is target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land, but a +1/+1 counter on it, so it becomes a 1/1 creature. When it dies or is exiled, return it to the battlefield tapped. So if you play a Wasteland, play this, you can then of course make the Wasteland a 1/1, Wasteland your opponent, and then when the Wasteland leaves the battlefield, because it died or was exiled potentially, you get to return it to the battlefield tapped. Really strong. Obviously works with fetch lands. I kind of want to put on some sort of bingo card, the ability to make a Cradle a creature and then be able to return it with Karakas, which might come up if you need the mana for the Cradle twice. Because if you have the Cradle in play, you make it a creature, you tap the Cradle for mana, and then you can Karakas your own Cradle back to hand because it's now a legendary creature, and then you can play it again and tap it again. And also this card has, whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional mana, an additional green. So the Cradle in that position would actually tap for itself, so it would add an additional mana, which is pretty nice. And yeah, obviously it means my Matadorks tap for mana. It'll be interesting to see how much that comes up. But yeah, playing 2 because I don't want to see it too much, but I do want to see it enough to be able to understand it. A little bit like Frenzied Baloth, I played these last week at my LGS. I played 3 in the main deck and it was really strong. This card was a great 2-drop, especially sometimes when you start on a mana accelerant like a Hierarch, and then you're just able to untap with a Green Suns without your opponent giving away too much about what they're on. Baloth was that card that I really wanted to just get, to be able to put in 4 damage thanks to Exalted and get some sort of pressure on the board. There's been a few times before Baloth where you have that Green Suns turn 2, 3 mana to use, but you're still not too sure what to go and get. So Baloth is really nice there. Obviously, it's a 2 mana, 3/2, the spell can't be countered, trample haste, creature spells you control can't be countered, and then also combat damage can't be prevented. Pretty amazing that it says creature spells and not just green creature spells. I think that's pretty huge uptick. There's a lot of text on this beast. It actually is a beast, and I think with 5 exalted creatures in this deck with trample, it can definitely get a lot of damage through. The combat damage can't be prevented is something that the deck is pretty well known have in Questing Beast, for those of you who played Questing Beast. So to be able to get through One Ring protection, maybe like a Glacial Chasm, things like that is pretty cool. So if we play against True Name, which I don't think we will, That is also something where combat damage can't be prevented. Obviously, protection doesn't account. So if you get double exalted and attack this creature into a true name, the true name will actually die and this won't, which is pretty cool. So sadly irrelevant, but here we are. Renegade Rallier. I'm just a big fan of this card, especially from a tempo perspective. Getting back a wasteland that you've used, getting back a creature like a Baloth or even a Bowmasters is pretty sweet. I think Renegade Rallier is just where you want to be in terms of value because it puts it into play, not into your hand. So that can be pretty fantastic. 2 endurance. This deck, as I came into MTGO and loaded it up, did have the full 4 thanks to blue-black, but with Reanimator most likely on the downtick, I think 2 is fine. I still want to have that sort of free spell if I need it against things like Ouphe or Cephalid Breakfast or maybe a Land's Turn. And it's just a good creature to have against the blue-red decks as well. So pretty happy to have endurance. Out of the Reliquary, I was kind of keen to drop this down to 2. Just don't think it's really in that position where it's as good as it once was. And I think sadly for the last few years, we could probably say that. So I think the Knights will be interesting, especially alongside the new card, Icetill Explorer, which is essentially a Ramanap, because if you play a Ramanap on turn 3, you have to wait till turn 4 to be able to get the land drop. If you play this on turn 4, you get the additional land drops, you still get the value straight away. Being a 2/4 is nice. The mill is likely insignificant, but we'll see what it does. Maybe makes a knight a little bit bigger, or potentially puts things for a Renegade Rallier to get back. It'll be pretty interesting to see how Icetill goes. Keen-Eyed, I still wanted like a Scavenging Ooze style effect, and I think Keen-Eyed Curator is just such a big beast on its own that it can just win games out of nowhere. I'm playing both Ouphe and Teeg in the main deck. Typically, you'll see the slot for these cards sort of them both fighting over for it, but I think they're both great in different matchups. Obviously, both great against the Khan Forge decks. If they already have a ring in play, I'm probably getting the Ouphe. If they have nothing in play, the Teeg is pretty strong because it also can't be removed by Colligan's Command, which is a pretty huge benefit compared to Collector Ouphe. And then Sylvan Safekeeper, I've just really liked as a Green Sun's Mother of Runes effect when I want it, because a lot of the decks where Ouphe and Teeg are good, they're going to be looking to end step, remove them, untap, and do their thing. So having some ways to protect that is pretty nice. And then also some opponents just don't realize that if you attack with a knight, say you attack with a 5/5 and your opponent's on 9 life and they say no blocks, then of course you can safe keep your lands away for 4 damage to make knight lethal, which is pretty sweet. The Decay, I just wanted a little bit of extra a little bit of extra oomph, a little bit of extra removal, I guess, especially against blue decks with Tamiyo or Dragon Rage Channeler or Hutter, just the ability to not have to worry about days or some sort of removal effect. Bowmasters, I think, is okay. Decent against the blue decks. It's nice pressure. It is a creature that our opponents have to respect. I don't mind it against the Ocelot Pride sort of Mardu decks as well, as a way to deal with them, hopefully early on. I think the Pride decks could be a little bit awkward because we don't have a great way to deal with go wide strategies. We really have to have removal straight away, so hopefully Bowmasters allows us to clean up a little bit. I was thinking of House Plague Engineer in the sideboard, but I thought it was a bit too niche for a metagame I'm not too sure about, so I think we'll see some more and then look at the Bowmaster. The sideboard's pretty normal. Probably the one card that people might not understand is the Gaea Orzhov Usurper, which I've played in the past. I think it's a really nice way to get rid of small threats because it does stick around and sometimes you get that extra value. Against a deck that isn't looking to use its graveyard all at once or go off all at once, the tick up is definitely pretty worthwhile. It's a nice way to sort of keep Delver off a Murktide at times. And it also deals with both sides of Tamiyo, which is a pretty huge plus in my books. So I'm pretty keen just to try Gaea in matchups where they are going to be a bit grindy. They do have some small things that I want to deal with without having to say like Swords to Plowshares or Bowmaster them. But we'll see how Gaea goes. I think one thing I really should do, and everyone should do, is at the start of a new metagame, bring up an Excel spreadsheet, export your list, put it into Excel, and then just have like 4 or 5 matchups that you think you're going to play against, and then do your ins and outs and just really figure out, okay, there are essentially 5 cards we are definitely taking out against Storm. We need 5 cards to bring in. Okay, there are 3 cards we're taking out against Delver. We want 3 cards to bring in. And then it obviously is really nice when you find those cards that do overlap and you get a bit more space in terms of what you play in the main deck, what you play in the sideboard. But I've essentially gone off vibes for this one. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah, I did think of the Outland or the Night of Autumn as a Green Sun's target, and I'll see if I do run into positions where I wish I had them. Especially Night of Autumn dealing with something like a cutter and then being around to actually just trade with the token is pretty nice. And I do typically run a Outland Liberator. I did just want to play the Decay as like a bit of removal. That's where I kind of found that slot, but we'll see how that goes. Hey, Sato-san, welcome. Hey, Ander. Yeah, one reason why you probably don't see Loam too much in Maverick style decks is because we have access to 4 Green Suns, you'll typically see a Ramanap Excavator. In this case, we're playing the Icetill Explorer. We do have ways to get lands back. We do have Renegade Rallier as well if we need to. But I would say we typically play to the board a lot more than a typical Loam deck like lands or full-color Loam is probably like that middle ground where you do have the Knight strategy, but then don't have the Loams. But yeah. In a deck like Depths, I've definitely seen Loam take place of some of the Sylvan Libraries people typically play. So it's definitely an interesting thought. All right. We are playing a Legacy League with play points, Abzan Mav. Nice. I've got to remember how to do this all. We'll go to gameplay. Cool. Cool. Sato, a big congratulations on your 5-0 the other week. Very cool to see. I believe you were a big fan of Baloths. I do really like your lists as well as how they are a little bit lower to the ground. Okay, this is pretty cool. We actually have the setup of turn 1, Green Suns for Dryad Arbor, turn 2, Wasteland, Cub the Wasteland them, get the Wasteland back. We could also lead with a Bayou into Green Suns for Dryad Arbor, which allows us to potentially Orc and Wasteland on turn 2. So that does offer more options, which I like. So we're going to keep this and probably go for that Bayou. Okay. Tower Pass makes me definitely think that they're going to be on Post. And I don't want to allow them to untap and play a... I should know this card. It's the land that is all types, and so the tower would of course tap for a fair amount. I do have upkeep stops here. So I will do it in their upkeep just in case there's something weird. But obviously, more against Stifle decks. Doesn't really matter here. Is it Planar Nexus? No, what's the card? Should know. I actually just played some Cloud Post the other day. The really nice thing about the Ignoble Hierarch here is we can hold these fetches if we want. We definitely want to keep one for Lush Portico. It means we can keep the Green Sun Zenith, which is pretty cool. I think we will fetch using one. Get a Savannah as that turns on all colors if we play the Ignoble Hierarch. Then next turn is going to be interesting. Trapper. Okay. Stock up. Okay, so next turn they do have access to stock up. I do like the thought of potentially just the Baloth this turn, and then next turn we have fetch Green Suns for Renegade Rallier, get back the Wasteland them. I do want to quickly see what outs they have to just a turn 2 Teeg. I believe they are a show and tell deck, but we can have a quick look first. Blue Cloud Post. Ugin, Kozilek, okay, one Dismember. Sink into Super Force, Chalice Ring. So Teeg does turn off a lot of their deck, which is pretty interesting. I could see this just being a Teeg turn. Okay. At least they got rid of the stock up. Okay. Planar Nexus is the card. That is the land that I should worry about just a little bit. Okay. Not too unhappy with that. I think here we just want a Frenzied Baloth. Attack. Could be like hold up Bowmasters isn't too bad either. The Baloth means we can hold up Lush Portico. The damage can't be prevented part is kind of cool. They put one card on top. I think it's going to be... Is Bowmasters in response to Ring that great? I kind of like Bowmasters. But it is a tough one. It is nice to get the damage in, but I guess like with how Frenzied Baloth interacts with the One Ring, it would be kind of nice to hide it for a second. But I think a Wasteland is in order sometime soon. Sometime very soon. Double Nexus. Very cool to see this sort of list come about. Okay. We don't want to respond because that obviously gives them a bit of information about what we're going to do. Walking Ballista. Okay. Ballista is pretty interesting because it does deal with a Teeg. Alright, so we will still Bowmaster here. Oh, good. All good. And hit the Khan. Swords. Swords means we do actually deal with the Khan. And I believe there aren't that many other like creatures to really deal with. Like Ballista's annoying, but not the worst. I can also throw away the token, to be fair. Because if we attack with the Frenzied Baloth, one does trample over. So here we can hold up Sword as well. Really, there's no point to block here, I guess. Because you're going to lose the Khan either way. I guess if you want to get rid of the token here, I guess that's a free block. Stock up's fine. I think the best card here would be Tower into 4-drop. Outpost isn't too bad either. Icetill would be pretty cool here. Renegade Rallier. We don't have a way to trigger it. Like it swords my own creature to trigger it. This is actually pretty tricky because I kind of want access to it. The Cloud Post I really need to get rid of like this turn, so I think we have to put this into the graveyard, unfortunately. And then just try to rip off the top. Nice. Okay. We get to go play the Karakas, attempt to Green Suns for 4, and then get the Icetill, which gives us an extra land drop in the Wasteland. Hey, Past. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Just once. They are a Force deck. Yeah. Okay. Fair. They can make a 4/4 Walking Blister. Or just cast Ugin. Ugin's pretty good. So we have to kind of go after the Ugin. I actually don't think we have a great answer to the Ugin, so we just have to concede here. There's not really a way to get back once they have that on board. I think really we just have to do better early on in the game. So the Thought Seizers seem good. Have a quick look at like a traditional list. So I don't think this is worthy of Deafening Silence, as they aren't like the Grim Monolith style deck. Chalice Ring. I mean, they really only have the chalices as artifacts. Like, we can't force the One Rings, which is pretty awkward. I guess, like, they do have Khan, so we do have to think about things in the board. They probably bring in the 4 Barrogoyf, so we'll definitely keep in the swords. Ugin is very rough. I think the Endurances are a pretty easy cut. The Icetill is good. The Decay doesn't really hit a whole lot. So I think like the Decay going out is fine. I feel like Keen-Eyed I don't mind, is just a big threat. The Badgermoles are pretty cool. The Safekeeper as just like protecting, say, Teeg is quite nice. Grist is good dealing with Planeswalkers. I guess, yeah, potentially I could have tried to draw into Grist to get rid of Ugin. Take out the Decay. I think it's really just the Thoughtseizers. Are there any artifacts we think they'll actually bring in? Probably not. They'll probably just keep some of these as Khan targets. I think it's just beat down with Wasteland. Okay, pretty land heavy, but having access to a Wasteland is kind of nice. But like one more land off the top is pretty rough. That I think a 6 is pretty decent. And a 6 would still most likely have access to Wasteland. I just think, yeah, I think one more land off the top and we just aren't doing enough. We don't have enough, enough pressure alongside the Wasteland to be able to have like a great start. Like double Wasteland, we have the Baloth. We would need to play the Dryad Arbor first, which is a little bit awkward. Ancient Tomb. Like if they have Ancient Tomb and Decay command, I believe they can exile Dryad Arbor straight away. I just want to make sure we have access to turn 2 Baloth in case they play like Island Pass. I think it's a keep and bottom the Cradle. There is the line of Lush and then hope that the land on top is green, but I think just getting the Dryad Arbor into play here is fine. And just hope it's not that Ancient Tomb a command start we talked about. And at least if they do play something on a Wasteland, we have pressure in play. Small pressure, but pressure nonetheless. It's tricky though, because like a Glimmer Post, don't really want to waste a Wasteland on that. But I think if it's something like a Glimmer Post, probably just Glimmer Post. I wouldn't Wasteland. Nexus I'm happy to go after. Okay. Feel like we just have to again go after the Planar Nexus. And I mean, next turn, Frenzied Baloth into Gaddock Teeg off Green Suns is a plan. And it's a pretty good plan. So let's go and get a Savannah, just so we have white online for swords. In case they play, say, turn 2 or another creature, we then have access to swords. Attack. And I think Teeg next turn is better than playing Knight. Teeg just keeps a bit more off the board. Okay, that changes things. That does not change things. It changes things a little bit because it does turn off the Green Suns if we play the Gaddock Teeg. The other thought is this turn Green Suns for a exalted creature that we build out our mana to be able to play the Teeg next turn and also the Knight if we want. They could have Ancient Tomb something. But I think like Ancient Tomb into Khan we don't really care about. Ancient Tomb into One Ring we don't really care about. Oh, I guess we do kind of care about it, but the big question is, do we care enough about the Green Suns being turned off with the Gaddock Teeg in play? We're definitely fetching. And I think we're definitely fetching a Bayou. Turns on double green, turns on black. Chat, what do you think? Teeg or Green Suns? Green Suns most likely for Noble Hierarch. It means if we need to, we can double white. I feel like to play it safe, it's got to be the Teeg. And I kind of hope they force it because obviously it won't do anything. Ooh. We did it, chat. We did it. Just that new card feeling. Just that new card feeling. Very nice. What do they exile? Thunder Trap. Okay. There's the Ancient Tomb we talked about. I think the best thing is potentially Walking Ballista, but they allow us to untap and then see if we draw into Karakas. No. I think we just play the knight first. Could attack with both. They block one and then kill the other. This tramples over. They block here. Pretty happy to see what they do here. Okay. Currently have access to 4 mana. Ooh, wow. Target creature gets +3, -3. Yeah, and it gets there. Very cool. Fetch land would be pretty great here. No. Not the worst. We can also put them down to 1. Does that stop that much? I also don't mind Grist this turn, then Green Suns for Baloth next turn to try to get in for lethal. This also keeps a Planeswalker semi off the board. Actually, I think the Green Suns was correct because it turns off the Ancient Tomb. Yeah. For some reason in my mind, I was just thinking of fetches, but it didn't matter, thankfully. But obviously that was just a really good example of how I rush things sometimes. And obviously I just should take into consideration everything on the board. Read cards, I think I know what they do. But obviously going for Baloth there is pretty great because it gets in, puts them to 1, they can't tap the tomb. Bada bing, bada boom. Doesn't change a whole lot. I really think the real game plan outside of Wasteland them is get Teeg or even Collector Ouphe as plan B under a Safekeeper and then hope that's good enough. Walking Ballista makes that a little bit awkward, but I think otherwise it's pretty good. We're just gonna run this back. Sadly not. We can't really cast anything. We're gonna mulligan this hand. Okay. It's got a pretty decent plan. We'll keep this. And I think we bottom the swords. Obviously Mana Acceleration's great. Knight's great as a 4/4. Bowmaster if they have a ring. Green Sun's Fatigue. Turn 2 Green Suns is probably just exactly what we want to be doing. Hey Eben, welcome. Hope you're doing well. It's nice to be back. Play a little bit of Legacy. I do definitely want to get that consistency back with streaming. Oh, no turn 1 play. No, like I think that's a good sign for us that it isn't a tower or a planar nexus. For the Winter Lotus, I played Abzan Lands, which does play a few creatures, and it plays pretty well for someone who likes Maverick-style decks. In the main event, I went 3-5, and then on Sunday, I went 5-2. The Sunday event, I did change the mana, and I felt it was a lot better, which is always nice. I felt like my access to black mana wasn't great, but had some really cool games. A lot of close games, which is always nice. And got to do some pretty heinous things with Fast Bond, which is always fun as well. Yeah, great opponents. Really cool format. So if they don't remove the Knight, we get to double Wasteland them. Ring is fine. So they're at 6. Swords. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4 mana. 5 mana with a Knight or 6 thanks to Cradle. However, we don't have a Wasteland in the bin just yet. So I think the play here is definitely double Wasteland. Yeah, okay. Land fetch. Let's get the forest, as we don't really care about that. Tap that for mana. Sack this. Hit Wasteland. The small issue is if they have a force. Another Knight isn't bad. Another Knight pretty much puts lethal on the board. Because this One Ring is gonna find them mana. So is double Wasteland really the best thing to do here? Maybe not. Yeah, I actually don't mind another night plus Wasteland plus Hold Up Sword. And if they force this, that's not the end of the world. Okay. All right, so they got a 17. We have 14 in play. Yeah, they go back up to 18. Barragoyf's fine. Swords that. Done. Talon Gates. Ooh. Is this a Safekeeper win? I think this is a Safekeeper win. We'll see if it slides. One, two. They might not think about the Green Suns for one. No, they force it. Okay. Response. Play. Hey, Mapson. Very cool to see you. Hope you're doing well. Back for 14. Put them down to 4. They take 2. If we have the Bowmasters. Yeah. I also don't mind waiting with the Bowmaster. I'd rather see if they try to draw. They have seen it. I've seen Bowmaster. Now they have to have a force. Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Very nice to be on the board. There we go. Really interesting deck. Very weird to play against a post deck where you don't typically bring in Force of Vigor. Typically, it's one of my first cards to go for things like Pithing Needle or Disruptor Flute. Yeah, very cool to see that deck kind of pop up. I haven't, obviously haven't played against it. And the Goyfs out of the sideboard are pretty cool. Yeah, it would have been nice to get that Safekeeper line. We will also do the code giveaway after the next game, in between games 2 and 3. Big shout out to Daybreak Games, obviously sending content creators like myself the codes, and of course the account, EB Dukes. Right, Antarctica. A pretty reactive hand, unfortunately. Question is, what sort of matchup is this hand not great against? Like, even, like, say Delver, not that bad. We have mana to play. Against a combo deck, pretty good. Against, like, a probably, like, fair control deck, not that great. At first glance, I was like, let's mulligan this. But at the same time, it does have a few different answers to a few different decks in the metagame right now. So let's have a quick look at MTG Goldfish and work this out. All right, Delver, not the greatest hand, but it does have double removal. Combo, yes. Ouphe, we don't really have a great hand against Ouphe, so meh. Eldrazi, I don't mind it. Give me a tempo, probably not great, but we do have early removal. I'm just going to see where it goes. I mean, if Collector Ouphe is relevant, then it's quite nice to have it. Okay. This is where I would probably love a Wasteland or a Once Upon a Time off the top. The question is, how do we start? Okay, so the Bauble straight away gives away that it is going to be Delver. This isn't going to be, say, a show and tell deck, most likely. So I think here we just want to start to build out our mana in an efficient way. And that's just going to be Forest Pass. I don't want to lose the Karakas and kind of fall behind on mana. And I don't mind that next turn we get to decay their first threat. Hold the swords for a Murktide. Interesting. Mana Dork would be a nice pickup. A Wasteland, not too bad. I'm pretty happy just to Wasteland and upkeep. Yeah, just in case they run Stifle, it's just best practice to allow them to untap and then take out Volk. Take out the Volk because if they want to daze the Thundering Falls, it comes back in tapped. They do get the extra value, but I think it's worth noting. Actual, Factual, Delver, and Wasteland. Okay. Like a fetch land here for the basic planes would be pretty fantastic. A Mana Dork would be pretty good as well. Keen-Eyed, I'd probably want to stick around for a little bit longer. I don't mind buy you a decay while we can. If they had a DRC, I think in every case they would play the DRC and not the Delver. What year is it? That is quite funny. An actual factual decay on an actual factual Delver of Secrets. I mean, now we even have like Karakas plus Daze mana for a Murktide. There's DRC. Oh, no extra land drop? Yeah, that's pretty good for us. Right. Definitely interesting. A little bit caught on mana here. I think we're happy just to keep them off their threats. But obviously land into Murktide without this Keen-Eyed, without this swords is pretty tough. But we can't get the Keen-Eyed into play this turn, fortunately. And I don't really want to tap off the Karakas for a Teeg or an Ouphe and then lose the Karakas. I don't think they're holding a Wasteland. If they play a Wasteland, they're definitely not Murktiding us, which is nice. And we do have a lot of outs to be able to find the white source. The Teeg turning off, say, a Force is pretty nice in that it does make the swords a little bit better. And obviously if they daze the Teeg, we don't really mind about that. I don't mind getting the Teeg into play. I think if the Teeg sticks, it just makes me feel so much nicer about our current plays. But I can see the benefit of being able to get the Dragon Rage Channel off the field. But, you know, turning on Cradle as well is quite nice. There are definitely a few reasons for that. They did keep on top. Okay. Pretty happy with that. But one card's on top, okay. Hmm. Interesting. Hmm. The Talon Gates can play the Ouphe and also hold up swords. I think we just play to the board. Pick out the DRC. If they fight over it, that means they probably don't have another creature, which is kind of nice, or like another source of damage. Another threat, I should say. I think if here we can just Ouphe. Turn that Cradle on, which obviously makes the Keen-Eyed a lot better. They have 4 cards. There's a Wasteland, which currently we don't care about too much. They might be thinking, do I play the Cutter or do I Wasteland them? The Cutter, there. Okay. I think I like Cradle into Keen-Eyed playing around days. We can eat the Mishra's Bauble, which takes them off Delirium. Ooh, it doesn't. I think if we take them off the Delver, it does. No, instant sorcery land creature. Yeah, they got us pinned. I guess we take them off the sorcery because that also takes them off a smaller Murktide in a way. All right, they have 2 cards. It definitely feels like fetch into Murktide. Oh no! Wow. All right. Play the Knight. Play the Noble. Back 3. Good old classic beatdown. Maybe like borrow a bounce, that'd be a little bit tough. No, nothing. This has to attack. Interesting, no fetch, so no Unholy Heat, which is pretty sweet. Dryad Arbor. What can the Knight get? Nothing great. Can get the Lush. Talon Gates is already gone. I could just attack with both. Put them down to 5. I think that's better than Wasteland. Put them down to 9. Hey, Gold Mines, welcome. Hope you're doing well. This is a tricky one. It might... Ouphe puts them to 9. They attack us. We go to 5. Untap. We have 2, 3. We have lethal. I guess because the Wasteland might keep them off the ability to double spell. Yeah, Bog would be very sweet here. Or Talon Gates in the deck wouldn't be too bad either. And then I will play the Dryad Arbor because it could be the damage that we need. I hope it's not just like end step bolt, untap bolt. Hmm. Have 3 cards. Okay, they're playing the Bauble. Maybe to try to bolt us in upkeep. They can farm one on top. Oh. Carpets, yes. Dismember, Abrupt Decay. Gaddock Teeg, Collector Ouphe, Sylvan Library, Safekeeper. I think that's pretty easy. Gaea is actually pretty sweet. I do like the Gaea. I think we might just go down on a Badgermole in this sort of matchup. Badgermole kind of good though, getting back lands. Pretty happy to keep this. And we can just lead on fetch for Lush. Play the Verdant just because the Windswept can get either basic if needed. I mean, the Badgermole with the Windswept is kind of cool. Get to get both basics potentially. Lush. Probably don't want another land. Happy to put that away, especially with the carpet in play. Okay. So here, let's go land into carpet main phase 1. Nice. And then main phase 2, we can trigger the carpet. Create a white. Swords this. Yeah, I'll definitely have to get better at Cub. Been a long day. Cub synergy. Cub Cub life. the Brainstorm pass? Endurance is pretty sweet. I kind of just want to nearly play it now. To make sure a Murktide isn't coming down next turn. Force pitch days. Okay. Get rid of a Bolt. Definitely makes me think they have a Merc. No. I guess still they could after the Ponder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. Wasteland would be pretty cool. Okay. Yes. In. So play the Wasteland. Play the Badgermole. Well, they're going to force that. Very interesting. Just saying we don't get to double waste them straight away. They have one card these days. The fetch land here really for a black source. I guess we have the carpets, we don't really need that, but Bowmaster pretty sweet. We are just going to do this main phase. Make sure we get rid of this Delver. This is where I feel vulnerable, especially with a pretty loaded yard for them in 2 mana. Endurance is probably the best draw that we can move towards. Not great. I don't want to play it here either. I'd much rather just hold these cards as unknowns. But at least the Bowmaster is pretty much turning off Brainstorm, because if they Brainstorm, it kills the DRC. They might also be in a position where this, like, I can just try to bolt you out again if I keep getting it to attack in the air. Price will do it. Tough. Not a whole lot to say there. Potentially, yeah. Maybe a little bit more removal in the main deck, or the sideboard, sorry. Could also probably replace some of the mana dorks with carpets. In that case, we aren't just going all in on getting mana. I think Delve is definitely a deck where you need to have that removal at the ready. Hey Dom, hope you're doing well. Very nice to see you in chat. Hope you're being able to play some Legacy in paper. Nice. Green white with Cubs seems very strong. Okay. A lot of interaction, which is nice. Mana's decent. Ones can find some extra pressure, which is pretty cool. So pretty happy to keep this. Hey Kappa, a huge thank you for the sub. Very much appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Let me know if you play Legacy. If you have a local metagame. Ooh. This must just be potentially a pedal. Maybe this isn't actually Ouphe. Surely. Surely we're looking at Ouphe. I don't want a 6 here either because we could have potentially drawn into Endurance. Two Cubs on board does escalate quickly. I feel like Mav has got a lot of good plays recently. Probably take the 3 swords, I would assume. Although not, like, I wouldn't say sword is greatness matchup, so it's not the worst thing to lose. Endurance there is pretty funny. Right, so they have no cards in hand. No responses. Narcomoeba triggers. Do we just... I'm trying to think. They have the Jack-O-Lantern, but they need the mana to be able to get rid of that. So I think we just allow this and then see if they get the Oracle. And then Endurance in response to them targeting Oracle. Is there a bridge from below? There is a bridge, so we would have to beat the bridge as well. I think here we're happy just to Endurance to keep everything off the board. You're at 0 cards. Chat, you with me? I think we can't beat the bridge. Like they would get an amount of 2/2s, which the Baloth isn't great against. So I think here we just restart the game in a way. But us up mana. Yeah, I think that's just the best way to do it. So I should also evoke first and then... Did I do that correctly? I don't think I did. No, I should have evoked first to get rid of the bridges. Yeah, that's my bad. That's on me. Small things that can definitely add up. A threat here would be fantastic. Green Sun's not too bad. I also like that that turns on 3 mana, which I feel like I'm either happy to get or I'm pretty happy just to try to get to 3 mana and get a Keen-Eyed Curator, which should be pretty close to game, other than them getting mana to turn that online. No Cubs. I think we will just go for mana here. I think turning on 3 mana is pretty great. And if not, we have a 12-turn clock. I would say we have a 7-turn clock, because surely by the time they get 7 cards... Okay, that turns off Dread Return, which isn't nothing. It does turn off our own Green Suns, but I think I'm pretty happy to take that. It also turns off the land that allows them to destroy creatures, because that is 4 mana, I believe. And now we have a 4-turn clock. They have to get there with the next 6 cards, or next 4 draws. But yeah, sadly, Cubs I just couldn't fit, because we are playing the Badgermole Cub, we are playing Frenzied Baloth. There could be a world where it's just a lot of like Elvish Reclaimers instead of the Reliquaries and much lower to the ground. That'd be kind of cool. Once is cool. Once finding Wasteland's pretty sweet. No, but we do find the Renegade Rallier. Okay. I've had enough. Well, Endurance there, pretty key. We like the Faerie Macabres. We like the Deafening Silences. We like the Thoughtseize. I don't think the Forces... We can take out, like, the Teeg. Collector Ouphe does hit Lotus Petal, but I feel like if we have the time to play the Collector Ouphe before they play a Petal or crack a Petal, then we're doing pretty well anyway. The Grist can come out. The Icetill's a bit too late. Safekeeper, most likely. Bowmasters, most likely. Cubs, most likely. Anything like too fair. I do like that the Baloths are quite quick, but maybe just the one as a Green Suns target. Dismember's interesting, even just to have an extra effect to deal with the 3 mana guy that needs to be activated in case they don't have the mana, but surely they wouldn't play it. I kind of like that Gaea exiles cards. So if we Thoughtseize something into the bin, we can then Gaea it away. That's kind of cool. And then it could just be the Teeg, honestly. Turning off Dread Return, and also if they do play it, like a Goblin Charbelcher card. See how this goes. The Faerie Macabres are the big thing. I feel like we want to have 2 pieces of interaction. One for a Thoughtseize, and then one to play turn 1. So like Thoughtseize and Deafening Silence, pretty great. 2 pieces, 2 lands, 2 creatures, and something else. Would be a pretty perfect hand. Okay, we do have some interaction. Obviously, Library can be taken out here. A little bit too grindy. Probably a little bit too fair. Like a Thoughtseize on this hand, leaving this is just not really doing a whole lot, so... Well, if one of these was a mana, I would probably keep it, but think we just have to go down a little bit here. Okay. Pretty happy to keep this. The opponent has also gone to 5 cards, so we'll keep this, bottom the Talon Gates, and probably bottom the Swords. And we're just going to try to go turn 1 Deafening Silence, turn 2 Ignoble, turn 3 Gaea. Okay. You do get to see what they boarded. They board anything. Doesn't really look like it. This card's pretty interesting. It's definitely got me before. Oh, they play Unmask. Maybe that's normal. It doesn't look they really did. Doesn't look like they really did board. We are just going to run this back. Yeah, being on the play is pretty huge, especially with Deafening Silence. Thoughtseize as well. Ooh. No green mana, but we do have like either turn 1 Deafening, turn 1 Faerie Macabre, or turn 2 Keen-Eyed with mana up. So I think we're pretty happy to keep this, even though it doesn't have white mana. They also kept 7. Yeah, tough. Interesting. I mean, this is where that wow, this is where the Baloth comes into play really well. Interesting. Haha. Baloth tramples over here. We get the planes. Okay. They have 3 cards. I mean, Frenzied Baloth is so good. Getting rid of their initiative creature, obviously taking the initiative. Ouphe. I mean, here we get to go for... Is Grist still on the deck? Ooh, it isn't. Okay. I think in that case we want a Lost Well. Yeah. Put at the bottom. Put at the bottom. I guess, is Renegade Rallier still in the deck? Okay, we can fetch Green Suns for Renegade Rallier. They have 1 card left. Get back the Keen-Eyed. Endurance is also pretty interesting, as that would leave the Barrowglyph as just a 2/3. Maybe it's actually Endurance that is better here. Okay. He'll attack. We definitely block. We'll stash. This is actually pretty fun. This is probably the most fun Ouphe game I've played. Oh. Okay, so we get to take them off mana. I guess... Yeah, let's go play Ignobled. Back 2. Play the Deafening Silence, Wasteland them. How many swords did I take out? None. Okay, that's good. Hit this. Hit this. Us. There was a line as well of getting rid of my graveyard and then using Faerie Macabre to get rid of theirs so that the Barrowglyph attacks as a 0 or is attacking as a 0. Yeah, I wonder if they didn't see the trample, because otherwise I think they might have kept that around and made it a 4/4 potentially. So they essentially have a 4-turn clock. Here we go. Bang. I think just in case they play Reanimate, I don't want to get rid of the Faerie Macabre and play it as a threat. Especially now that we get a army guy. A skeleton creature token. Apologies. Don't think it's worth double playing this Deafening Silence as well. I'd rather keep it as an unknown. Ooh, actually, we'll go to 6 because of the trap. Damn. Alright, we need to find removal fast. Definitely attacking. I think it's just the knight here. And damage will occur. And then we will play the once, which we can find a creature and then play that as well. Find the Ouphe. Take the Ouphe. Crack this. Tap and play the Ouphe. And now we have 2 lethal threats. I'm not sure if they can deal the extra 1 to us. They get to draw an additional card here. Oh, they're at 11. For some reason I thought they were at 6. Wow. Very cool games. Very cool games. Nice. Okay. The Ouphe special. We went down to blue-red. We went up. 2-1. Blue post. 2-1. Ouphe Inish. And 0-2 blue-red. Silver. Let's do the quick giveaway. Let us do the quick giveaway. So a huge thank you to those who took part. On Twitter, I gave away some codes. So let's find the winners who retweeted. Nice. Congratulations to Logan, Baldwin, Trunks, The Big Empty, and Steven. I will message you on Twitter. Big thank you for your support. It means a lot. That's the spiel. Let's try to keep this train rolling. Get another one under our belt. A good mix of decks tonight. Blue Post, Blue Red Delver, Ouphe Turned Initiative. Very spicy. Deck's been cool. I haven't missed too much, which is nice. I feel like we've seen a good mix of decks. Yeah, the initiative juke was interesting, but I was ready for it. So that's always a tricky one. I don't mind this hand. We would Green Sun's turn 1 for Dryad Arbor. The Talon Gates is a little bit awkward in the opening, as well as the Ouphe, but I'm here for it. They could be reasonable cards. Maybe not against Delver specifically, just because we want to be building out our mana pretty well. Okay, that does mean we can go for basic into basic, which I don't mind, especially if we're going for Dryad Arbor here. Just make sure we can progress our mana, especially without removal. I don't want to be taken out on two fronts. Fair play. Ooh. I don't want to Wasteland just yet, but I do like this as a land drop into just playing out the Ouphe. Don't really care if it got dazed. It obviously blocks the DRC right now. If it takes a bolt, I think we're pretty happy with that as well. Okay. I think here we might have to try to Green Suns or Baloth and then see if we can Endurance following turn. Double Wasteland, we go to 10. But then we do have a bit of control. Especially with the Endurance. That's pretty risky. What if? Yeah. What if we... No. I was going to say double Wasteland and then Endurance them. But if they force the Endurance, then obviously pretty stuffed. If we play a land and just go for a good old-fashioned Endurance main phase, that's kind of brutal if they have a daze. If we Green Suns and they have a daze, that's kind of brutal as well. I kind of want to hold the Windswept Heath for a black source, so I probably want to play the Talon Gates this turn. And just take out a DRC, which means they get one less Surveil. Okay. Play this. Remove this. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Can't really beat Murktide. And I don't think us, like, Endurancing now is going to be that great. Yeah. feel like I have to filter here just to be able to keep the Grist around. Yeah. Okay, at least we can try to get back against blue-black, seeing they took us down before. We know what we're bringing in. These, along with Dismember, Teeg, and Ignobled, Collector Ouphe, Safekeeper, and then probably just another Mana Dork. I don't mind keeping the library in if we have more removal. I think I'd rather have 2 Ignobles for black, because the white we have plains and also Karakas if needed. Okay, happy to keep this. Once hopefully finding a mana accelerant. That'd be pretty cool. Okay. I think here we're pretty happy to go Verdant to hold up Lush Portico and then play Library. Force Pitch Days. Okay. Although the Lush would be cool, I think we want to just hold the Verdant for a Bayou. So we can play the Orcish. One thing I wouldn't do there, if they brainstorm in response, I might not Bowmaster, just because then they can daze the Bowmaster and return the land we were going to destroy with the Wasteland. Okay. I think here... I could get the Lush. They could be really aggressive on like fetch on Wasteland, fetch the Black Source, but I don't think they would. I think I'm happy to fetch with this one. Get the Lush. Put that on top. Okay. And then happy to get another Black Source here. Oh, I didn't mean to click on the Noble, but we'll make it work. Also, I shouldn't 5 when they have a wasteland in play, because then they can just wasteland the fetch land. Raid. Okay. Fair play. Try for the Bowmaster. Ugh. Probably rather just try to decay here. No, I guess because decay won't gain them life, we might as well see if they flip to see what the flip is. So they know the top of my library. Okay, play that. I mean, if this ice still comes down, that's pretty sweet. Do they offer the trade here? Interesting. I'm pretty happy just to decay it. Two cards left. In black. Hope. The days, damn. There is a world where we just play the board and just obviously get rid of the DRC a little bit earlier. Surely. Surely they don't have the 4th days. If they do, that's on us. Ooh. Endurance. Target them. Turns off Murktide as well, which is nice. Buys us a little bit of time. They have 1 days left in the deck. Okay. Nice. I think here we should just get rid of this because we only have the one white source at the moment, so there's no real point holding both up. And now we get to attack with both as well. Just speed up that clock a little bit. I'm going to hold this Savannah. They're not in a position... Yeah, they're pretty close. Maybe I actually will just play it because they're in a position where like they could wasteland the white source, go to second main player threat, which just takes us off the white source for our turn as well. Which means if we draw into like another Reliquary, we can't play that and swords. I think we just have to swords this right now while they're tapped out. Oh, they have the force. I probably should have thought of Brazen Burrow as like a flash creature. Because now, like, if they play Price, that could just be it. Hey, PVDH, hope you're well. Hope you are well. We drew a Wasteland. Interesting. Okay, so they do Wasteland us, which makes me think that they aren't playing Price of Progress. That is obviously a pretty good out for them, but maybe they thought it's just too good with the Knight. The Talon Gates is in the deck, which is kind of cool. So we can go... let's go float. Sack. Talon... Oh, no, sorry. The Talon Gates doesn't matter because this is not a creature. Oh, that is quite funny. That is quite funny. I didn't mean to do any of this, so we're just gonna shame ourselves. Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. That is... Apologies. AFP, hope you're doing well. I really enjoy your pre-modern content. Actually, I just enjoy your content in general, so big ups for that. Getting rid of the Talon Gates like now as well is just... Obviously, that would have been great to have with the Knight in case we need to get rid of these. Yeah, because now we have to go... play a Knight and just hope the top isn't Bolt. Tricky. Definitely one of those things just to... No flip. Wow, okay. So obviously, yeah, just, again, don't rush. Consider the board. Pretty happy just to run this back. Probably the library, like, on the draw, and probably just an additional mana dork isn't the worst. They were pretty aggressive as well for going after our mana. Okay. Pretty easy mulligan. Obviously against Delver, I really want to keep a hand with good mana. Like good mana and a swords would be nice. This is decent. Pretty happy to keep this. Put back the Cradle. This Cradle is most likely only tapping for one anyway. And the Baloth is quite nice. Opponent also on 6. And no, like Tomon Ponder is quite good for us as well. DRC or Delver on the board turn 1 can be some pretty good pressure. And again, here, pretty happy to go for basic into Noble. Worst case is probably like untap, bolt, wasteland me. Just being able to keep this going is quite nice. Wow, nothing. Swords is pretty fantastic. I think it's just going to be land Baloth attack. Eat the bolt if they have removal. Cub into Baloth is quite good. The land does come back tapped. Oh, but I could also... the Noble would tap for 2. Yeah. My thought as well is that if the Baloth does stick for some reason, then at least the Badgermole is uncounterable, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I forgot that the Cub would allow the Noble to tap for 2. Yeah. I did not expect this Baloth to be there. They kept a hand with no 1-mana play, no bolt. I almost feel like they're going to go land show and tell. Like they've fully changed. Cage is fine. Nothing else. Ooh, that's nice. Especially with the Baloth. I think we attack first. Because if they want to... Yeah. If they want to bolt the Baloth, they're going to do it in response to being able to counter this anyway. Oh. Now we can go Scrubland. Jamal. Holding open the Noble to get use of it. And then here we can make this a creature. Cool. That's pretty cool. I've never made Windswept Heath a creature before, so that is pretty sweet. I honestly don't mind just trying to go wide here. The Bayou. Bowmaster around days, obviously with the mana and also the Baloth. What can they have? Fire magic deals 2 damage to each creature. That's pretty good. That's an instant as well. Yeah, that's going to wipe my board. I don't think there's a need to do anything here. I will play the carpet. very cool card. Instant Speed Chasm is very good. I think we're just going to untap here and see what we draw. Okay. Green, green. We have a Savannah left. I probably just want to get Endurance here. It's a shame that I can't hold up Decay without holding up the fetch. Oh, sorry, holding up the Bayou. One Bayou, one Scrubland. Ah, the Age. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I guess we decay the cage. I've already tapped it. I might not even Green Suns here. Yeah, I think this turn was horrible. I think I should have just passed, end step Cage, and probably even Swords the Tamio potentially. So it's not a great Green Suns target to get without me potentially throwing the Swords into a Daze. Always the Cage. Yeah, I think we're just going to pass here, unfortunately. But it's tricky now because obviously they get the draw off the token if we don't Swords, but throwing the Swords into a flip is pretty rough. Interesting. They don't go after my mana. Probably because I have the carpet, thankfully. Page is gone. It's a force. Okay. Okay. I mean, now we just have to deal with the board. Like a Murktide would be quite strong. So Endurance anytime soon would be quite nice. At least it's a quick death. do have the Grist, but that doesn't do anything right now. It could just be a Knight and kind of hope that does something. It does have Talon Gates. Tough. Damn. Well, we can finish 3-2, hopefully. Yeah, maybe Fire is a card I need to think about a bit more. That's obviously a good reason to keep all your 1-drops in hand and try to ponder your way out early game. On the play, which is nice. Okay. A little bit awkward with like these two, but we do have like one's find a green source, Green Sun's a Dryad Arbor. Gonna be one of those. Okay, we take the Noble, we play the Lush. This is fine. I honestly don't mind the fetch, especially for a black source. Oh, okay. Honestly, pretty happy to reset here. We get to reset and obviously do pretty nice things with our mana. I think just in case we draw into Bowmasters, we will get the Bayou and play the Hierarch. Okay. Well, Wasteland Thoughtseize. Maybe that Pox style deck. Hmm. If they don't take Baloth, I think I like next turn untap. If we don't draw a different land, potentially just Baloth attack for 4 and then Talon Gates our Baloth to keep it away during their turn and then get it back on our turn. Take the Baloth. Hmm. Too kind. That's very much appreciated. I really, that is the highlight of the stream, that comment. I feel like we want to keep the Windswept for a Lush. So I think here it's just going to be the Talon Gates. Honestly, could just be the Wasteland. Wasteland, Green Suns for 2. Bash your face. They did take the Baloth, so they do care about Precious somewhat. Wasteland's nice if they're maybe like a Saga deck. Obviously dealing with that straight away is quite good. We have some control over what's on top of the deck with the Windswept Heath as of next turn. That was a good set of lightning. There was a big storm happening outside, and I am all for it. I don't know if that got caught, got picked up. Hey, Mangork, good morning. I guess, yeah, it would be good morning. Flooded Strand. That is probably the land that I thought about the least when I thought, what is my opponent's next land drop? Very interesting. Okay. Another Hierarch's pretty cool. Lead the charge. I'm going to also play the Safekeeper. See if they have a play. No. Okay. Life is going well. I got engaged earlier this year, which is nice. Weddings all planned, which is cool. Went to Morocco for a few weeks. Caught up with my fiance's family as like a middle ground. Magic's pretty cool. There's a growing pre-modern community where I live, which is great. Ooh. Reanimator. Archon of Cruelty. That's not a great sign. We do have some outs. Yes. We have to discard the Talon Gates. I think here we just get rid of the Safekeeper. Not going to be doing a whole lot. And then I think we're just going to go for Lush and Step. Paying costs. Ooh, Tameo, okay. We've already used the Lush. Okay, I did not pick up on that. Oh yeah, it was turn 1, of course. Okay, Green Sun's here for Grist. No, but Swords is pretty bloody good. Does it matter? Oh. Okay. We will also Wasteland here. Might as well just do it now and then 6. Because we're playing Maverick in 2025 and we have nothing to do. We have no cards in hand. We have everything on board is our game plan. We get to attack with the Tameo, get a clue at the very minimum. Also, what is Archon in terms of cards for cards? So it dealt with the Safekeeper. I had to discard the Talon Gates. I had to Swords it. So I dealt with it, but they drew a card off it. So it's a 3 for none. I guess they had the Animate Dead as well. So it's a 3 for 1. Is that how that works out? Mapson, I can only expect you to do that. You seem like a very resilient person. Do they have a land drop? They did brainstorm, so I assume they do have a way to shuffle. Don't do this to me. What are you doing? One mana waiting to pay costs. Does this become a 3/4? Almost got 4/4. Okay, so one might trample over. I just want to keep the Tamiyo alive. I'm going to hold the Cradle as an unknown, especially if they run Thoughtseize. Archon is a very good card. Archon I just find so hard to deal with sometimes. And it's just so quick as well. Swing for 6, deal you 3. Swing for 6, deal you 3 is most likely going to be game. But I also feel like that is just legacy power level. I feel like as a reanimated target, that feels on level with legacy unfair levels. What is this? Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. Whenever it attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have. If you do draw, it's discard a card. Cool. Interesting. That's very cool to hear, FP. Very, very cool. Knight. Can't be countered, which is nice. So let's go after the Tamiyo. And then I want to see if we can get another Force. For those who weren't here against Mono Blue Host, we did have a Baloth in play and cast a Gaddock Teeg, which was hit with a Force of Will, which obviously means Gaddock Teeg resolves. It's quite nice. They do block. Interesting. So they really just want to keep this Tamiyo alive for as long as possible. Right, let's see if we can nab a Force here. Don't read this line. This line doesn't matter. Okay. That's fair. I feel for the people who are playing Mardu and come up against a Tamiyo and have a bunch of 0/1s that are attacking. I assume they do have ways to deal with Tamiyo and ways to grow creatures, but Tamiyo has definitely hit some creature decks where it hurts. They shuffled. That's pretty good for us. Maybe, just maybe. Nice. All right. Blue-black Reanimator. I like the carpets. I like the Decay deals with both Animate Dead and also Tamiyo, and also Baragoyf. I like the Gaea. I don't mind. Dismember's a maybe. The Thought Seizers are a maybe, just to have some sort of control over what they can do. I think the Fairies are probably a necessary evil. I think the Teeg is a pretty easy cut. The Ouphe, the Potentially the Badgermole Cubs. They might just be a little bit too fair in this matchup. Probably the Safekeeper. Put those out. To take out like an Ignobled and a Noble for the carpets. Maybe bring in some number of Thoughtseize. Could see like a Knight coming out. Maybe just like 2 Thoughtseize. It's just really nice to know how I should be structuring each turn. In the blind, this hand's kind of nice, but I assume they go for basics early on if they can. The wastelands aren't the greatest, but I don't mind the rest of the hand. Being able to potentially get back the Bowmasters with the Rallier is kind of cool. We know they have to Thoughtseize us if they want to be able to reanimate something, which is nice. It's nice just to know that you're putting cards in your opponent's hand that they kind of like have to be able to do a certain thing. Come on, Tamiyo is kind of rough with this sort of hand. But off a Bloodstain, we do get to wasteland them. But then again, they also get to just make mana, so. Well, they Thoughtseize themselves. Oh, okay. Well, apologies, opponent. Here we're happy to just get Bayou and then Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. Jeez. Nice. All right, well, we do finish 3-2, which is pretty cool. We went 2-1 versus Blue Post, which was pretty interesting. I would say we have a better matchup against the green versions because Force of Vigor is a lot better. And they don't have access to Force of Will and Force of Negation, which does come up. But pretty happy to get it up against Blue Post. I think a Wasteland deck that has ways to recur Wasteland is also quite strong. We got 2-1 against Ouphe. They played Ouphe games 1 and 2. We were able to get game 2, thankfully. No, game 1. And then game 3, they actually sided into initiative, which is pretty interesting. And that was pretty close. They got us to 1. And then 0-2 versus Blue Red Delver. I think it was just a case of, well, like, if we can't answer their flyers, it's quite hard for the deck to beat Delver, which sounds like a pretty basic ask, but yeah, that is blew over. We then went 1-2 against Delver. Again, that blowout from that card. Those are the sort of cards that I will never forget because that was a pretty big blowout. And then we did just beat Blue-Black. I'm just going to call it Reanimator. But I think, yeah, they got pretty unlucky. So, how do we feel? Deck was cool. I felt like for this league, the Bowmasters were quite relevant, especially against Delver. If I can trade one of these with a DRC or a Delver, I think we're in a pretty strong position. Decay felt pretty good. I mean, being able to have an uncounterable piece of removal against Delver is quite good. Obviously, Tamiyo both sides is quite nice to hit. The Badgermole Cubs didn't really come up. It obviously is a very cool interaction. The ability to get back a fetch land or a wasteland is pretty cool. But I think, honestly, I would have rathered 2 more Baloths in a lot of the positions where we had the Cub. Just to either get through damage or just to make all our stuff uncounterable. Because this card's pretty amazing. Especially creature spells you control come countered. It's not even green creature spells. That's pretty sweet. The Cub is cool though. It's interesting because it's obviously quite good with Wasteland, but it's also not always going to be the case that you just have a Wasteland in play and then be able to play the Badgermole and then obviously turn the Wasteland into a creature, Wasteland them, get it back. Typically when you play Wasteland against a deck where you want to Wasteland someone, you're going to Wasteland them straight away. So you do kind of have to have both in the same turn for it to not be awkward. Because I can definitely see a lot of times where I'm just Wastelanding my opponent when I get the chance to, and then drawing a Badgermole and then not really having something to Earthbend that's great. Like maybe a dual land so that if they try to Wasteland it, we do get it back. I assume as well, because it says dies or exile, that there is no interaction with Scrib Ranger and returning it to hand. Because returning to hand is not die or exile, so I don't think that does anything. Yeah, maybe I'm underestimating how much this card is going to see play in green decks. But Baloth was sweet. I think Baloth came up a ton, especially as just powering through with Exalted. That was really nice. Renegade Rallier as well, I think was really good. We didn't really get to see Icetill. There was actually one moment against Delver where it was dazed. So if that was a Ramanap, they wouldn't have had the out of daze there, which is pretty interesting. So definitely something to consider is that it is an extra mana. It isn't just a free upgrade. It does cost more. So in a format with daze, you do have to consider that. Swords was great. Grist was just nice to have as a Green Sun's target, I think. I do like Gaea. I think Gaea is pretty cool. If I do expect more Delver, I think it's quite decent at like taking a threat off the board while also ticking up and making sure Murktide doesn't stick, or we can make DRCs lower. There's a few other creatures like Cradle Control, or like the Mardu decks, like just being able to have another way to deal with a creature without trading one for one and trying to get some sort of card advantage is nice. Overall, pretty good. I think the Badgermoles and yeah, I think the Badgermoles are the big thing. If we do expect more Delver, maybe the extra endurance, going up to 3 endurances. Knight is still fine, but I'm definitely becoming more of a person that thinks Knight is going to become just a Green Sun's target rather than a full playset in the deck. It's still good, obviously. And like Talon Gates is a great example of a card they printed that just makes Knight that little bit better, because now an untapped Knight also has the ability to phase out a creature at instant speed, whether that being saving one of your creatures or getting rid of your opponent's creatures in attacks. That's always pretty cool. So Knight's cool, but there's obviously a lot of cards that are being printed that do things straight away. And that's sort of the value that you have to have in Legacy to keep up sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see some of the other decks that come out. There's a lot of players who are putting out a lot of Maverick results and have different lists, especially within Naya. So it's going to be really cool to see what they're doing and kind of take what they've learned into consideration to see how I want to build Mav going forward. Safekeeper was nice. I didn't want to find room for like 3 or 4 Mother of Runes, which I know a lot of players have been finding success with. Shout out to Sato-san. And I think Safekeeper just does what I want quite efficiently, because it is a Green Sun's target, so I essentially have 5 copies in the deck. And against a Cloud Post deck, being able to save Teeg from something like a Dismember, or Collector Ouphe from Kozilek's Command, or from a bounce spell such as Sinker to Super, Safekeeper is pretty sweet. So that's kind of why I like it. I don't think it's going to come up too much where we can like stack the lands, post blocks to like deal damage with a Knight, but either way, pretty cool. Sideboard. Yeah, I think potentially more ways to deal with Delver decks. Like no chokes, which I think is fine. I do like the carpets. I think carpets are really strong. Mana is just such a big thing to win in the Delver matchup, and I think carpet does a really good job of that. Choke, especially with how the decks are currently built, you're typically casting choke when they have a creature in play, and giving them like that extra attack in doesn't always feel great. Prismatic Ending could be a card that I look into instead of like maybe the second Abrupt Decay or the Abrupt Decay in the main deck, because it is a nice efficient way to deal with Tamiyo, both sides, DRC, Delver. It has a little bit of flexibility to it as well, so it does hit 4 drops, which is nice because our Nobles do tap for blue and our Ignobles do tap for red, and we do have Talon Gates, which can be any color, so there's definitely times where you can prismatic a ring or a Khan, etc., which is kind of nice. Yeah, I think the best thing about Maverick is that most lists aren't the same. There's always something that's different, and I think that in essence is the point of the deck. It is about targeting the metagame that you play. Like I would say I play at a specific time on MTGO, so my list should be different to someone who plays 12 hours from now and probably plays against a whole different board of players. So very cool to see. I'm going to go to bed because it is late, but a huge thank you to all of you for coming in and watching. A big thank you to the new followers and the new subscribers. A big congratulations to those as well who were able to win the giveaway for my coupon codes. And yeah, a big thank you to new followers, especially because I am trying to get closer to the 4,000 mark on Twitch, which I believe is 163 away. So I think there'll definitely be a lot more streams before Christmas to try to hit that before the new year. So I appreciate you all. A big thank you again. I'm going to see who else is streaming now to send you over to. Looks like Nassif is playing some, which is pretty cool. I don't see another legacy player, unfortunately, but that is all good. Nassif is always a good time. So hey, have a great week. I appreciate you all. To those on YouTube who are still watching, send me a message. I'll send you something. It means a lot that you're still watching. So that is it. A rating. I appreciate you all. Have a great week. Let's go Maverick. Let's go.